Hi all, it's Teresa. This week I made another board for painting, to do a painting on. And every time I make one of these boards, I do it a little differently. I have this beautiful frame. It's a really oddball size. There's no way I would be able to get a canvas board to fit this. So I make my own canvas board. The way I made this one is I glued 2 layers of foam core board together with white glue. Then I laid it flat and put really heavy books on top of it so it didn't bow. So when it was dry a day later, I wanted to add a fabric to it to give it a nice canvasy type texture. And I usually use muslin for that, but I didn't have any more muslin in my stash. So I looked through my fabric and I found this piece, and it has a really nice heavy texture on it that I thought would be nice to simulate the texture of a canvas. So I brushed a layer of white glue on the top and then put the fabric on it, and I think I turned it this way and again put heavy books on top of it. It did take 2 days to dry, but it's dried, and it bowed a little bit too because the one side of the foam board was wet, so it kind of tends to bow towards that side. So then I flapped the edges of the fabric over to the other side and marked where they were, and then put white glue on those areas and then glued the fabric to those areas. And it's really nice and sturdy. So now I want to add a layer of white acrylic paint. And this is just regular house paint, interior house paint. And I want to water down the paint and then do maybe 1 or 2 coats of that, because I want to make sure that this texture of this fabric stays visible. And this is just Sherwin-Williams interior paint flat, and it's number 7008, called Alabaster. And so many interiors of houses are painted this color. And I might add that I never sell my paintings. I only do my paintings for myself, for my own enjoyment, and I keep my paintings and they're all displayed in my house. And sometimes I'm lucky enough to be able to exhibit them in the community. And then I bring them back home. I never put a price on them when they're on exhibit, because I just do my paintings for myself. Most of them have symbolic meaning to me, which is personal. So I doubt if anyone would be interested in buying my paintings anyway. I love painting, so I get a lot of enjoyment out of it, and it's very relaxing. And my happiness depends on me doing creative projects, which includes doing paintings that are meaningful to me. And the texture is really visible still. This paint is not damping down the texture of the fabric at all, because the paint is pretty thin. And if you made one of these, you wouldn't necessarily have to frame it, as long as you do the sides very neatly and paint the sides very neatly. Okay, so I'll let this dry, and I just used one of my chip brushes to do this because it has a nice coarse texture on the bristles, and it would make sure and get down into the texture of the fabric really easily. Wow, I really like how this turned out. I like the surface a lot. It has a nice, interesting, heavy texture to it. And it feels very sturdy. So it did bow, because, you know, the fabric with the glue, as it dries, it's pulling this side tighter. But I think this will work really nicely in this frame. And after I am finished with my painting, I have metal clips that I screw into the frame, because this is a wood frame, and the clips hold the painting surface down. And look how beautiful it looks. So I wanted to try to get this board as flat as possible. And I'm trying this for the first time. I'm putting water on the other side of the board, and I'm covering it with plastic wrap and then foil and then some brown craft paper, because I don't want to put my books right on top of it. This is another good use for my heavy art books. And as you can see, I weighed it down enough that the panel is now flat. After 2 days, I took a look at it, and yes, it did help. It made the panel much flatter. So I went ahead and did my drawing for my painting, and then I transferred it onto the panel with graphite transfer paper as usual. So now, as I begin the painting, I'm finding that I have to have more water in the paint. It kind of scratches on in areas, so that's why I had to put more water in the paint to make it more fluid. And this is all an experiment for me, since I haven't painted on this type of surface before, so that's interesting. And then I quickly blocked in the colors for the other areas of the painting. And this is what it looked like when I was finished with all that. I kind of like it already. And this is a close-up so you can see the texture of the panel with the paint on it. So using a beautiful sky photo that I took in my neighborhood as reference, I want to start on the clouds. And I don't have a real clear idea of what I want this painting to look like. So again, this is all developing as I go. And I kind of like doing paintings every once in a while like that. So as I'm painting on the colors in the sky, I'm using kind of a dry brush effect, and you can hear how it's kind of scratching on. I have a stiff bristle brush I'm using, and I'm scratching it on, and then when most of the paint is off of the brush, I'm able to do a more dry brush effect that blended the colors in with each other really nice. And moving along on the other sky areas, again, I'm just experimenting with different brush strokes and different amounts of water. And the dry brush technique, after I've applied paint that's very watered down, I'm basically trying different things on this sky area. And this is how it's developing at this point. When I get to the figure, which is me, of course, the dog walker, I wanted to use colors that weren't exactly realistic. They're brighter. My skin tone is more orange. My shirt is a bright yellow. And I want to have the colors really pop on certain areas of this painting. And again, I had so much fun with this process. And here's the finished painting. And I had so much fun doing this painting because the surface is so heavily textured. It presented a challenge and made it more fun to do this painting, because usually I use canvas boards that I buy at the craft store or a very smooth surface, and this was different. So I found some different painting techniques that I had to use. So I got different effects, which was really fun. It wasn't the same old painting techniques that I always use. So on the back, I just used these 4 clips, and it made the painting surface nice and flat. And look at the cute tabletop easel I just got when I was doing this painting. I think it's so cute. It really came in handy. So I hope this video gave you some good ideas of different painting surfaces that you can make yourself. This presented me with a new and interesting painting experience because the texture is so different than what I'm used to painting on. So I sometimes had to decide if I wanted a really crisp line or if I wanted to add a little more water to the paint and let it kind of smooth and smear into the texture of the surface a little more. And then other times I was able to kind of do a scrubbing technique and used a dry brush effect too. And because of the texture, I got different effects from that too. So if you like this video, can I ask you to please give it a thumbs up? So thanks so much for watching. I really do appreciate the viewer support. Bye-bye.